everybody. It's Joshua, CEO of SEO Design Lab. And today, guys, I'm going to show you the power of using VEO3 with super agents. Now, this is actually pretty insane. So if you look at here, you can go ahead and just steal this prompt if you want to and change it to however you see fit. And if we scroll through here, you're going to see like the prompts. And right here, the super agents, so GenSpark AI is able to actually use the VEO3 video model, which is super huge. And so here's like our first sample here that we've done.
I've got my first secret, and it's a big one.
So there's obviously like a lull at the end right there, but just showing you the unique power of these super agents, especially with the power of VEO3 now. So essentially what has happened is Josh Woodward, who works with Google and Gemini, they've introduced VEO3 fast generations. So you get about 10 packs per day if you went over to VEO3 and do this traditionally straight through the VEO3 platform, okay, if you just do Gemini. So let's log into here. It's fine. So again, this you would only be able to do about 10 credits a day. However, there's actually no limit when you're using GenSpark for this creation. So if we scroll down through here, it broke down exactly what it did for the 8-second clip. And that's the thing. These are all 8-second clips. However, with the GenSpark super agent, you're able to actually ask it to stitch all the videos together. So that way you can turn it into about a 1 minute or longer video if you wanted. And that's really cool compared to using something like Descript where you'd have to manually add the individual videos and stitch them together. That's very messy. Nobody wants to do that, right? So here's another example that we have here.
Algorithm hack. Post during peak hours for maximum engagement.
So we're still playing with the whole prompt here, but this is an example of a Squid Game Red Light, Green Light. So obviously we have the dollop here. And yeah. So another thing that's really cool about using GenSpark for this is not just the fact that once you got all your prompts done, which by the way, when you're creating this, you're going to want to ask it to let you verify that you want to actually proceed. So ask it to do all the scenes before it starts producing the videos. Otherwise, you can easily get rinsed on these credits. And here's another variation that we've done. So let me just close out of here. And feel free to take this sample right here if you want. But this is a cinematic version of the Squid Game scene. And it broke it down into all the individual director styles. So Quentin Tarantino, Christopher Nolan, Wes Anderson, which uses a symmetrical framing, whimsical color palettes, and deadpan humor. And so once we basically told it that we wanted to do these 3 director cuts, it went ahead and created 3 videos for us of that. So let's just check out what these are. Let's do this one. This one's my favorite right now.
I suppose one might consider this predicament rather extraordinary.
So pretty cool. This one right here is also
all right. The
okay.
rules are simple. Say move when not watched, freeze when noticed, and do your best to get it right. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. Oh no.
And so again, what you'd want to properly do so that way you're not getting rinsed in credit is sit down and try to get your first scene done correctly and ask it to do the variations or the updates that you're looking for so that way it comes out to something you are really looking for. I wanted to push this video out quickly to show the capabilities of VEO3 now with the GenSpark AI super agent. So that way you could use this for your own purposes as well. So if I scroll down through here, what I asked it here is create a stylish slides comparing film directing styles. And we had the video on the left and then explain what you what the AI did in the video on the right to create it. So we actually created a whole slides here. So if we click on this and we hit view and export, which we could also ask the GenSpark to make this into a website, which I'll do after this, but we could scroll through this as slides. And so we have the 3 variations of the scene 1 with the different director styles. So here's Quentin Tarantino.
Well. Looks like we got ourselves a real Mexican standoff here, except the gun's a giant creepy doll and we're all about to get royally screwed.
And then so it has the color palettes right here for different colors. It broke down the pacing and additions, signature techniques, and then here's Edgar Wright.
All right, the rules are simple. Say, move when not watched, freeze when noticed, and do your best to get it right. Easy peasy.
So really, really cool that you could literally sit here and sit down in one day probably and make an entire movie if you wanted. I'm not exactly sure what YouTube is going to look like a year from now, because these videos are absolutely blown up on YouTube. So if we go to something like Yeti Vlog, I mean, they're just blowing up. This one's got 156K views. It was over 1 minute and 20 seconds long, right? So absolutely huge. This one right here has 137K. And so if you're willing to sit down and brainstorm, you can easily jump on this trend to capitalize on it. So let's exit out of here. And I'm just going to click right here and here. And what I'm going to do now is, can you please turn this into a HTML website? And so now I'm going to ask the super agent to create a website out of these slides right here. So this should come back to us. Here we go. And now it's going to start programming the website for us live while we're recording this video. And so I think this is pretty huge. It would take a lot of time to create these videos and then stitch them together for like a 1 minute to 1.5 minute series. But by using the super agent from GenSpark with the VEO3 Superfast, you're able to now to literally brand out your YouTube, your TikTok, your Instagram channels with persona-based videos that you can just replicate over and over really, really quickly, versus having to come over into Google's Gemini and make these one by one. It would just be very, very clunky, I think. So hopefully you found value in this video. Please make sure that you like it and you comment. If you have any questions, please let us know in the comments. We're happy to answer all these different technologies we're using within our business here. I run a multi-6-figure digital marketing agency out of Florida, and basically we are able to deploy these quite rapidly for customers for their own use cases, and we're generating tens of thousands of views for these customers that we're making these videos for. So again, thanks for watching and have a great day. Bye-bye.